Hi, my name is Dr. Dwayne Dundore. Today I'm going to talk about something that I've had a couple of people ask me about doing, which is basically how do I get from $0 to $1 million a year in revenue and sales. So it's a lot of different ways of doing it. The first one we're going to do, this will be a couple of parts, I think, till we get through a couple of them. But the first one I'm going to do is consulting businesses. Like I have a consulting business where I consult on business type stuff and engineering type stuff. So, I'm sure we all been on Instagram, we're scrolling through and you see an ad where somebody says, look, we can take what you're good at and turn it into a consulting business. And I've seen some of these lately and I always think to myself, well, how is that a sustainable type of business? So we're going to kind of look at some of that portion tonight. So we want to get from 0 to $1 million in 1 year. That's what we want to do. So we want to get there in 1 year. So if we break it down and we look at it, by this, it's a couple different ways of looking at it. One, if we're going to just do standard consulting, okay, we'd have to do $83,333 a month in revenue. If we break it down even further, it's about, let's say, $19,000 a week and $480 an hour if we work 40 hours a week. So if we look at that and we say, okay, this is what I'm going to have to do in hourly, this is what I have to do weekly and monthly. Now, one of the problems is that we don't always get the same type of revenue through the whole thing. So if we're doing it this way, in the beginning, we may only get 1 or 2 customers. Maybe we don't have any customers sometimes. So, it's going to start out, let's say, smaller, and then you have to build it up. So this number as you go through the year is going to have to be greater, okay? If we look at some of the ones that are on there where we talk about consulting businesses and they say we can get you all these new customers to be consultant, you can be a consultant. I have looked at some of them. Some of them actually do, to kind of get prepared for this, some of them actually do work. Actually, I called 2 of them today to actually ask some questions and set up a call with them and things like that. So they are actually, it is feasible to do it. So really, if I wanted to do $1 million, I would have, and most of them tell you, in most cases, they're charging $5,000. That's what you're going to charge a customer for a one-time thing. Could be a year. Normally, it's a year, I think. So it means that you're going to end up with 200 customers that you're going to have. So I'm going to need 200 customers for a year to do this. So I have to build up to the 200 customers to get the year portion. So now you have to think of yourself, okay, what can I do? Like I'm an engineer, okay? What can I do that can make 200 customers in a year happy? I can't really go out and do surveys or do, things like that. So I'm going to have to do something where it's more online. So I can go in and maybe consult to them or answer questions or be like, a chief technology officer, like a fractional chief technology officer or a fractional engineer. Or, even, maybe in your cases, you might be a fractional CEO or COO or just a consultant to be able to consult on different things on maybe how, a plant runs or things like that. So it's all different things. I've actually talked to one of the customers or one of the companies, and they have a person that actually teaches yoga and is doing it. So they're doing these online portions to teach, where they're teaching other yoga trainers or teachers on what to do and how to keep their businesses going, things like that. So it's a lot of different portions you can do to it. The thing that I always think is, how are you going to get to these things? How are you going to get to the 200? And how are you going to keep 200 customers happy? So what ends up happening is that I go and I get the customers. So to do that, you're going to have to do a lot of stuff. You're going to do things like this, where you're doing, little messages, almost some of them, the better ones I've looked into, do them almost every day. And they'll do like a weekly meeting where they have people can get online and be on almost like a a live chat where they can ask questions, things like that, where other people are on. But again, you're going to have to do something like that to be able to do it. So, it kind of gets kind of complicated to keep 200 people occupied, for a 1 year period. Because if they don't, they do it for, let's say, 30 days and they go, oh, this, isn't very good. I want my money back. And then you get into this thing where you have to give their money back. Most of them do not give the money back, just so you know. This method also costs you money, okay? Depending on how it is, they're going to charge you, typically what I've found is about $15,000 up front. It kind of ranges anywhere as low, I've seen it as low as probably like maybe, I think the one I looked at was probably about $5,000. Most of them are going to be between $15,000 and about $25,000. A lot of times they charge you a once and done thing where it's that much and you have access to their program for a year. It's kind of the same thing they're doing, they're doing it, but they're doing it that way. They're giving you lists, they're setting up how you're going to market it, on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, things like that, and YouTube. So they're going to tell you how to get those customers. They may tell you, maybe some of them will say, okay, for $5,000, we're going to give you an email that you can send to all these different people on LinkedIn, and we can, and you can do your research on LinkedIn to see what people can actually see. It kind of gets really difficult after a while because, you're kind of, it's not now that you have to keep this 200 people occupied. You have to actually basically, still do the research, things like that. Up here is similar, okay, where I'm doing consulting. This is a little harder, okay? Now, this you can do yourself a lot of times where you may be able to do, TikTok things, brief things that you can go onto TikTok and do a little blurb about your business. You can buy advertising on Instagram, YouTube, almost all of them. So you can do that. You can also talk to people, like let's say, you could maybe get business from other businesses, other people that are in the consulting business that kind of maybe the two of you can work together on just doing it because they have one skill and you have a skill that kind of like goes with theirs, and by adding the two together, you can actually do better. But again, is $480 an hour too much to charge for a consulting fee? No. I mean, I've seen this number much higher. I've seen it much lower. The lower number we go, the more we're going to have, more customers we're going to have. So again, and it's some like, if you're a really good consultant, this $20,000, a week, you could get $20,000 if you have a couple customers that you're really good at your job and you're, let's say, a CEO or CFO or something like that. Let's like a fractional or somebody that's in just for a time being, or let's say you're helping companies grow. You're going to go in and somebody has a business, but they can't have a full-time position for, let's say, a chief operating officer, or they need a production manager or somebody to help just write SOPs, standard operating procedures for a plant. And you can do those things. So now you could charge them maybe $5,000, a week, or maybe more, like probably $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month. But, charging to get to where you need to have this monthly nut, and you're charging, let's say, half dozen customers, let's say $10,000 a month, you could, you'd need actually 8 of them, to do that. But that's also workable where you can actually do it. So they can send you stuff, you can help them with things, remotely. You don't have to always be at their plant. You may have to go to their plant once a month to stop in, and see, and if, or maybe every other month or things like that to help them with stuff. But a lot of times, most consultants can actually do a lot of their work from at home. I know an electrical engineer that's actually doing stuff for an energy company, and he actually does all their like energy reports, and he does very well. He probably can get up in this number because he has probably like 40 companies he's doing it for. You could be, let's say, an air conditioning guy that knows how to do energy calcs and things like that, and design air conditioning systems in your area, and you could easily charge, maybe $800 or $1,000 to do those for other contractors. Other contractors will pay you that because that way they don't have to be doing it. They can actually keep going and doing the business of doing the installs, and that way you can actually do that. And it, like I said, charging $1,200 for an energy calc or something like that isn't out of the ordinary as well. So you could get to these numbers, you know. It's all kinds of other things you can do, you know, in businesses. So again, you just always have to remember which direction you want to go. This one to me is good, but again, you're keeping 200 people or more occupied, you know, to get to that number. Again, but when we look at this, we always want to say, okay, I need to make this, you know, the first month I might only do $500, you know, and then, you know, but by the, let's say 12th month, I might be doing $160,000, you know. So it, you know, so you just have to kind of build it up, you know. When you get to these numbers up to $1 million as well, is that you're probably not going to be able to do that yourself anymore. You're going to need somebody else to help you. So you might need an assistant or 2 assistants to even do this. Even this one, you know, it's going to take people to help, you know, answer calls, answer emails, you know, help with different things, you know, doing a lot of the legwork for you, sometimes the research. I have another person that I know that has a consulting company that do medical studies, and, you know, they do quite well. But again, they have to have, I think they have 4 people to get to that $1 million number, you know. But it is doable. But again, this one to get to that $0 to $1 million in a year. That's why everybody says that the first $1 million is the hardest. And it is the hardest, because a lot of times what ends up happening is you get in there and you try to do it all yourself. And if you try to do it all yourself to get to $1 million, probably 90% of the time you're going to fail, because you need to have somebody else. Those things that are, you know, you can't be doing, you know, some of the stuff that you would normally want to be doing, or say, I'm going to save money, I'm going to do this myself. If you could actually bring somebody else in at even $20 an hour, or pay them $50,000 a year out of this, you know, now, you know, you're actually getting it. So if I had 3 people at $50,000 and I can get to the $1 million quicker, that leaves a lot more for you to put in your pocket, you know, especially in consulting, because most of the time consulting is mostly profit. It's just labor, you know, in portions, your office supplies, and maybe travel if you're going places, or minimal, or even advertising. If you're advertising your service, is going to be, you know, so much per click, things like that. So you can set those parameters up of how you want to do it. Or you can pay companies like this where they're going to say, okay, I'm going to give you that and you're going to design the whole thing for me. But again, to do that, you're going to have some cash up front to be able to do that and work with them. Again, what you should do if you're going to do that is you want to get something in writing from them to say, okay, I'm going to, if I invest this money, I want to have a guarantee that I can get to that point. I can get this many leads each month that are actually, let's say, good leads, you know, not that they're just giving you names and you're going to go through it and do stuff. And I want to be able to, you know, have a lead that I can actually flip into my consulting business. So this one's this one. Next one we're going to do is on a production facility. We're going to see if you have a small product you want to do, and that'll be the next video. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.